Hey, how are you?
Hello.
Hey, Caitlin.
Hi,
How's it
how
going?
are you? Good.
Jenny, can you make me co-host, please? I can't hear you. None. We have Queenie waiting in the waiting room. I wonder who Queenie is.
Is it the Queen?
I know, probably. I'm gonna admit Chris Linedacker because I believe that's the applicant. Okay. I'm going to admit Carolyn's iPad, since that's probably pinch on. Jenny, I imagine you'll just take care of, I'll admit people, but if you want to take care of screening or anything like that as we go forward. Yep, thanks. I still can't hear you, so I'm going to assume that head nods and like thumbs up are going to totally work. Okay, so you just give me a wave. Yeah, who knows? Who do we think Sean Barkley is?
Do you have me?
Is this Mr. Linedacker?
Yes, it is, sir.
Great. I'm Conrad Stunson, the chair. We're going to go ahead and wait for the other members to roll in, and we're going to admit people in the waiting room, and we'll go ahead and
Okay.
chat when we get there. All righty?
No problem, sir.
Sweet. All right, I'm going to admit Sean Barkley and see who that is.
Okay.
Conrad, can you hear me now?
Now I can.
I had to change the microphone setting on my computer. I have no idea what happened.
Okay, it happens.
Totally bizarre.
Yeah.
Great.
So I just messaged the other person in the waiting room to see who they are. I'm going to let in Mike Snow, one of the other board members. So you guys can go ahead and mute yourselves as we wait for other people to come in. There's no reason for us to be anything other than muted at this point. I'll keep my microphone on so I can continue to update you on glorious things like who I'm letting into the meeting and when we get rolling. It looks like, I mean, it's only a couple minutes. Oh, so we still got a little time of just sitting around. if at any point you have a question for me or whatnot, or you want me to do something different, go ahead and raise your hand at me.
Yes, sir. Can you see me on video or am I just on audio?
You are just on audio right now, Chris.
Okay, that's all right. I'll just keep it on audio because I know if I change things over to video, then things gets jumping around. I'd rather just stay with the audio part of this, please.
Okay, that sounds fine for now. Are you, Mr. Landecker, are you dialed in on a phone or are you on a computer?
I am on my phone right now.
Okay, cool.
I have an old computer and I just did my phone's newer than my computer, so I figured I'd be better off just doing it off that.
Okay, that works.
Okay.
Hi, Carol. Hi, Tom. Mike, you there? I have you muted, so just making sure you're good. We are just waiting for one or two board members to trickle in. I know that some of the board members are backed up with meetings, and we'll go ahead and they should be here soon, hopefully. And we'll see what when they get here. We just have two more members that we'd like to roll in here, and then we'll get going. And we'll do that from there. Mike Snow, are you gonna be able to turn on a video during the meeting itself, or are you going to be just by voice today? And you're gonna need to unmute to answer that. Okay.
Okay,
Are you,
guess- I'm fine with just talking.
whatever's easier for you, Mike. I wasn't sure what your situation was there with the computer and
Yeah.
stuff, so.
He can see you, so.
Well, that's the important thing, right?
That's
You're
it,
right.
That's it. I'm happy. I missed you.
Yeah, all right. It's like people, look. Hey, Andy, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good, good. We're just waiting for one more board member to roll in, and then we'll go from there. Okay. So we just have one more gap, and then we'll get rolling. So and other than that, we're just kind of chilling, waiting at this point. Hey, Jeff, can you check your audio to make sure that we're gonna be able to hear you, please?
I hope you can hear me, Conrad.
Oh,
Okay, sometimes if I turn my video on, my Wi-Fi, I guess, isn't strong enough or something, and it makes me sound, I don't know what.
yeah, no, I've encountered that with you before. So let's go ahead. I just want to make sure that our audio is good, since we'll probably kick off the meeting with you when we actually get there.
Okay.
But we'll just, I'll roll back to you in a second.
Zoom is bad, but sitting looking at each other saying nothing is deadly. Just saying.
Well, you know, this is the best kind of Zoom meeting ever. It's a ZBA meeting. It's action packed. It's like we sit and stare at each other for long periods of time. Soon we're going to the awkward silence part of the meeting. That's where I ask you questions. Everyone just kind of stares at me. That'll be fun too.
Unfortunately, Conrad, I have to leave at 7:15. Otherwise, you could be assured of being pummeled by questions and answers.
Oh, good.
I'll leave it to Tom.
So I hopefully have a bullet point list form to take care of. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't want to miss out here.
Mhm.
All right.
I can be called back for reinforcements if necessary. Pulled out of my other meeting.
Right. I'm sure that could happen if we need to. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm not sure about the last member. We'll see if she rolls in and go from there. Today, we are holding our public hearing to discuss the application for a use variance for 23 to 25 West Main Street in Canton. This is the application here is from it's Carrie and Christopher Lindacker. And we will go ahead and address that in a second. Before we open the public hearing, let's talk about how it's going to flow. In general, on any sort of public hearing for a use variance, a few things on Zoom. If you have a question, if you go down to the bottom, you can do more, raise your hand, or just give me lots of big waves and I'll see you. But during the public hearing, basically, hi, Sally, question? Got to unmute yourself.
I just wondered if you put me on there.
Yeah, I can see you. I got you here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so what we'll do is, the first thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and hear from Jeff Murray about the application itself and why it was turned down. And then Chris will hear from you about why you're asking for a use variance. You sent us the application already, so the board has already looked at it and read it, but let's go ahead and talk through all of your points about why you feel that a use variance would be applicable in this property. And then following comments from both Jeff Murray representing the village and Chris as the applicant, sorry, Mr. Lindacker as the applicant, we'll go ahead and open up for public comment from any neighbors or people like that. The board, if you have any questions, let me know. And we will roll from there. Jenny Reed is going to be helping you manage anything that happens in the chat if you end up chatting or any questions or anything like that. But it's a relatively small meeting, so we should be able to roll through pretty easily. The one thing I will ask you to do is when you are being called on to speak, as obviously since I can't see everyone's faces, I'm not going to ask for video. I am going to ask you to identify yourself by name, just so we know who you are, and we go from there. Okay. Chris, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you because I think that it's important for you to be unmuted throughout this whole process, so we can hear what's going on for your input at various points.
All right, sir.
All righty. So Jeff, let's go ahead and kick it over to you and tell us about the application, please, and why it was denied, and what was the application for and why it was denied.
The application was for continued use of the building as a duplex. It had been used before as a duplex. I think it came in before our zoning had changed. But then it sat vacant for more than a year. And once it sits vacant for more than a year, you revert back to the residence in which it's in, or the zone that it's in. And it's in an R1 zone, which does not allow duplexes. So of course I had to reject it because that's just the way our code reads.
Okay. Jeff, quick question for you. What was the applicant trying to do with this property that kicked it to your desk? Because obviously if the applicant had continued renting it, it wouldn't have kicked to your desk. So what was why did you know it was vacant, basically?
Well, because I think he plans on selling it, and I think that's the determination there. It's worth more as a duplex than it is as a single family residence, and I think that's why this came to us as a variance.
Okay, so
you'd have to ask Mr. Lindacker that.
Oh, I will, Jeff. I was just curious what your background was on how it kicked up to your desk, because I mean, you know, if it wasn't a building code change or anything like that, I was curious how it came across your desk.
He came across, he called me one day and asked me about it, and I told him that that wasn't being able to be used anymore because it had been not used for a year.
Okay. And that's just to clarify what we're talking about, Jeff, on that is that's the non-conforming uses and structures in chapter 325, right? It's basically a discontinuance.
325-49 maybe?
Yeah. Yep. That's the discontinuance classification on the zoning. Okay.
Right.
Awesome. Great. Alrighty. Let's any other questions for Jeff before we get over to Chris to tell us about the application, what he wants to do, and why he wants a use variance? Alrighty. Let's go ahead and run with it. Chris, what do you got?
My name is Decker. So thank everybody for attending this tough will we do have to do. My wife and I purchased this property approximately 10 years ago with the intention of renting it as a duplex. We bought it as a duplex, and it always has been a duplex. According to the Postal Service and the county, the house is considered a duplex. It has two separate entrances, two separate electrical panel boxes. My wife and I, when we first bought it, we bought it and fixed it up on the inside. We rented it for a good 4 to 5 years actually more than that, more than 6 to 7 years as a duplex. We had both sides going. We ran into an issue in 2018 with the tenants abusing the property. It took us a good 6 to 7 months to have the tenants that were living in the house move out of the house. We actually had to pay them to move out of the house. When we got in there, the house was in such disarray compared to what we did to it that we really didn't have the financial ability to fix the house at that point. We continued to pay mortgage payment, property taxes, insurance on it with no income on it. I know ignorance of the law is no excuse, but my wife and I did not know that there was a no use policy for keeping it like otherwise side of it, and pick up enough money to fix the inside of the house to bring it back up to a livable state. Yes, we were trying to sell the house as is, but when we found out that we needed to fix the house in order to sell the house, we ended up doing that. We ran into a little issue with finding contractors and a person to work on the house with the whole COVID thing, shutting everything down. So that didn't help at all. We finally found a gentleman in the Canton area, Mike McDonald. He's my property manager for our rental property in the village now. He's a nice gentleman. I know that your code enforcement officer has talked to him numerous times when he was working on the house about fixing it. We fixed everything up as far as we could on the inside. It cost us more than what we thought it was going to cost us, but I wouldn't rent anything that I wouldn't live in. My wife and I have been going over trying to sell the property. After we were told by a person that was interested in a property about the whole zoning variance and everything, I just had to go through the process. So that's why we are here where we are. This property, in order to turn this property back into a single family, not back into a single, but to a single family house, would be a major obstacle. I would have to basically tear the house completely apart from what it is. There is a common door that goes between the two sides of the houses, and that's it. It's a fire door. Everything would have to be gutted completely out of the house. So if this application is turned down, it's gonna cost, it just be an unbearable situation with us. Worst case scenario, if we don't sell the property, at least I'd like to be able to rent it as a duplex. And I've been making payments. Okay, I say my wife and I have been making payments on this house and keeping the taxes and the property cleaned up. And if you've driven by it, we've slowly been trying to keep everything going. Both sides have a paved driveway. Both sides have a covered porch going in. Both sides have a separate entrance and exit. So there's two ways out on each side. It's just been a difficult learning curve for my wife and I. I've learned that I need somebody in the area that I can go to and touch base with when there's a problem. And I found that with Mike. Mike is a very good contractor. I say contractor. He is a very good gentleman and is very honest with me, and I take his word what needs to be done. So I don't know what more we could say or what more we could do, but this property is in all situations a duplex. It is two complete separate properties. It's 23, 25, not 23 and 23 and a half. It's 23, 25 West Main, and it always has been. I would just like to have it revert back to what it was.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Linedecker.
Thank you, sir.
I have a couple questions for you, then we'll let some of the other board members, if they have questions, then we'll open up to other public comment.
Yes, sir.
Just to clarify, you said you ran into problems in late 2018 with your rentals. When did you actually get your renters moved out of there?
We actually got our renters, the last guy that I paid to move out of there was in, I believe, late December 2018, early January 2019.
Okay. And all right. And when did you try to put it on the market and then discover you had to do the work before?
We actually initially tried to put the house on the market, I believe 6 months after that. That would have been
June of 19.
June of 19, May, June of 19, not for sure.
Okay.
Yes, we had it listed with, what's her name in the village. Her real estate's right on the corner of 11 and heading towards there.
Debbie, does that sound familiar to you?
Yes, Debbie Gilson. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
But it
We
was
tried
never
doing that.
listed. I went up to list it.
Yeah.
And, we discussed pricing and of course the use
Right.
Yes.
also, was a question. And I think that that's the reason why we're here.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Mr. Linedecker, that's Debbie Gilson. She's one of the board members here. She came in a little late because I was confused on the name that she had on her device. So.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're all right.
Okay.
It happens. So that's why I was asking, because it sounds like that she looked at it. All right, so that was June of 2019. Okay. All right, so that gives us
Yes.
that gives us a good timeline for what we're looking for. And this is basically, it's a pretty standard non-conforming use zoning law in terms of what we have here in the village. And it's that 1 year, that 1 year period, which is what we ran into.
Yes. But like I said, I know ignorance of the law is no defense, but it's this is the first time that I heard of a non-conformance being zoned back after a 1 year of non-uses. Because trust me, if I would have known that, I would have fixed one side to keep it going as a duplex. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I suspect that as soon as you found that out, then you're stuck in a situation where you need some renovations. So let's go ahead and
exactly.
So that's what we got going on. All right, so let's go ahead. 2 more questions on your application itself. I know that not everyone has this application. You use some numbers, which I didn't really understand. It says, basically talking about a 220 use. What's a 220 use?
I can't. Sir.
Yeah, all right, so on the application itself, basically,
Conrad?
yeah,
Okay, there, I've got you back now.
okay, good. So on the application, you talk about the neighborhood having a 483, a 215, and other 220 are nearby. I don't know what those mean in your application.
That I would have to talk with the person to help me fill out the application.
All right,
They had the legal lingo to fill this out with. So,
all right, well, it's talking about very specific uses on the application, so it's a little hard for me to understand because it's an argument about what's going on in the neighborhood, and it's using code numbers that I don't understand. So we'll have to table that for now then.
okay, no problem. Like I said, the person that helped me fill this out gave me all this whatever lingo to put on the application to get this going. If I have to, I'll talk to them to get a clarification on those parts.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, so let's go ahead, and I think that, do any of my other board members have questions for the applicant, for Mr. Leindacker, before we open up for other public comment? Yeah, Caitlin?
Sorry, it took me a minute to figure out how to unmute myself.
Yes.
Hi, my name's Caitlin. I guess my question is, I'm just a little bit curious about the amount of time it took you to evict your tenants, I guess, and to remedy the problem.
Yes, dear.
I mean, I'm not sure, I'm not too familiar with the New York State law, but I have heard that it's difficult to evict people in New York State. So I guess I just wanted to know if you could expound a little bit on your experience in trying to get them evicted.
Yes, it is. It is under New York State law. It is very, 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 especially with the COVID thing going on now. And this was pre-COVID. It takes basically an act of Congress to evict a tenant for non-payment of rent. I don't know if you know this, but the village water and sewer bill has to stay in the landlord's name. The only thing that doesn't have to stay in is the electric and the gas. But if they keep paying or keep getting the electric and gas paid, they can still keep running up the water and sewer bill. That just keeps going, and that's accrued and that's billed directly to the landlord. I tried for at least 4 to 5 months to go through the channels and get things going, and I found out it was going to be cheaper and easier for me to actually physically pay this persons to leave the property. And that's what we ended up doing. Came to an agreement with the people that were living there. We pay you this much money and you leave the property. And when they left the property, let me just say, it was not pretty. When my wife and I first bought the property, we put a lot of our own time and effort in there to fix the house up on both sides. And when we got in there to redo everything, flooring was tore up, ceilings are punched, windows are broke, things like that. It's just, I don't know how people I was just brought up in a different era. Okay. I was always taught to respect where you are, where you rent it. And I rented apartments for numerous years before I ended up getting my own house. And I would never, ever, ever have destroyed a property this bad. I mean, there was literally household garbage throughout the whole thing, and I was paying for garbage. And I hate sounding like this, but it's just, I don't know how people could do that to another person.
Excuse me, can I speak for a minute?
Yep, go ahead.
My apologies, I came in late, after Mr. Leindecker, had talked, but Mr. Leindecker, were you renting to families or was it student rental?
I had a contract with two sides of the house with student rental. I had three boys on one side and 2 boys on the other side. And the final ones that got out of there was the 2-bedroom side on the 23 side. And it was actually just one gentleman at the very end. A gentleman from New York City that hung around till the very end.
Okay. Now, what are your intentions? I know that you would like it so that it could be zoned as a duplex. Would you continue renting to students, or are you going to focus more like maybe a family rental sort of thing, professional?
To be honest, dear, I am just looking to be able to market this property as a duplex.
Okay.
This property cannot be the value of the house as a single family home compared to a duplex is drastically different. Because
And it is,
if anybody was to buy this property, it would, and it's still zoned residential, you'd have to find the very person that would basically pull the house apart and start over.
No, I agree. I've toured the property. I've been there, and you have done a very, very nice job.
Yes, and if, like I said, if you've seen the property on the inside of the house, my wife and I spent a dramatic amount of money to fix the inside of this house back to a livable space. I mean, we literally had to get rid of all the appliances in the house because they were just destroyed. We put new flooring through the whole houses. We did all new drywall through the places. We did new bathrooms, new kitchens. We got the outside of the house pressure washed. We'd actually thought we'd had enough money budgeted to actually put a new roof on, but the inside just took so much more than what we thought. So we've got the roof patched to the point to keep it from leaking, but sometimes you just gotta move on.
Your losses.
Yes, and that's basically what we're trying to do without, taking a tremendous loss. If we could get this house zoned back to a duplex, I'm sure we could market it as a duplex and somebody could come in and fix the roof and rent it from there. I'm just trying to save some sort of my wife and my investment in this. That's what this house initially was a retirement investment for us that just went the wrong way. Okay.
Sweet. Debbie, anything else? Are you good for now?
Yeah, I am. Thank you.
Good. All righty. If I don't have any more board members who have questions, let's go ahead and open public comment. So if you have so Mr. Leindecker, at this point, normally it's just a statement, it's questions or whatnot.
No problem.
And we're just gonna go from there. We'll let anyone in the public go ahead and ask questions or comment as they wish about the parcel, whatnot. Don't feel like you need to jump in. I'll
wait till somebody asks me or you ask me a question.
That'd be great. All right. So any members of the public would like to ask a question here, give me a wave or whatever, we can pull you in. Mr. Pinchon.
Tom Pinchon, 19 West Main Street, right next door.
Great.
Have been the whole time. Does the zoning board know what it was zoned when Mrs. Barkley raised her family in that house as a single family?
Do you know what year that was?
She sold it, or she died, and then her son sold it, I guess, to Mr. Leindecker. But she was there for many, many years.
The zoning laws went into play in the 80s, I believe, on this residential R1 zone.
Okay.
So this being a non-conforming use in this zone is, I believe, back into the 80s. it was, I believe, but it's been a duplex for, Tom, was it converted since you've been in your house, or has it been a duplex before that time?
It was, Mrs. Barkley lived there, raised her family there. She did not have it as a duplex. She had it as a single family home.
Okay. So it was
It
converted.
was
in 2000
R1, it was R1 at that time. It was R1 when we moved in.
Okay, yeah, so yeah. And so it's converted to a duplex in the 2010 era, is that correct? Or Chris, when you bought this home, was it a duplex?
It was.
Yes, it was. When I purchased it for Mr. Barkley, he said that his mother had lived in the 23 side for numerous years and had rented the 25 side for many years before we took over.
Sweet. All right.
I don't know if you've been on, if you have any insides, looks to the inside of the house, but there is a single door that goes between the houses. So
Yeah, that's what you said before. Yeah, fire door.
To say it was a single family house, I just don't see that a single door between a 2-bedroom side with a kitchen and bath and a 4-bedroom side with a kitchen and bath wasn't a duplex well before the 2010 area.
Okay, I was just checking to see if, so Debbie, do you remember when these codes went in play?
I don't remember exactly.
Okay. All right, so
I know that when I was on the board, like we went over all the codes and updated it, and
yeah,
it must have been, let's see, Peter passed away 7, it must have been like 10, 11 years ago, probably 12, somewhere in that area.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. All right.
But I can just a little, in regards to the 2 units, you could tell, like I was in there when Randy Barkley was selling it.
Okay.
And the kitchens were very, very dated. So it they had been there for quite some time.
Yeah, it probably predated any sort of zoning code R1 district for that area. I mean, there was a lot of fascinating development that happened in the village early on. So, but anyhow,
right.
So let's come back to Mr. Pinchon, see what we got going on. Do we have any other questions or any other comments from you that you'd like to?
So it is R1. And
yes.
Could you tell me the definition of R1?
Yep. An R1, it's in the code for 325-8 is what we're looking at for R1. An R1 use is, just to give you an idea, basically the permitted use is a one family dwelling, a public park or playground, an existing farm, or an accessory building or use. Those are the uses permitted in the R1 district. In the current point, there's other things that are allowed under special use or special exception, of which, I mean, it's an accessory apartment is included in that, but it's not, we're not talking about an accessory apartment. But basically we're not talking about, I mean, a college or a college building. It's really not a multifamily or a duplex allowed in the current R1 usage. That's very clearly in the R2 usage. Okay.
And so this is not a single family. I mean, what he's petitioning is to not make it a single family home, make it a duplex.
Right. So the petition it's pretty clear. Basically, on a use variance, what it is it's basically applying a different usage to a parcel in a zoning area. So it's like basically spot zoning is what's going on with the use variance. And so what he's petitioning for basically is the thought is that it was used as a duplex, and there's 4 tests that we will talk about as a board to see if it matches these for use variance. And basically he's petitioning, basically saying that it was a duplex, feels like a duplex, looks like a duplex, but I did not rent it for that year. And I'd like to continue the usage that it was previously. That's kind of the summary.
So I understand, thank you. I understand what he was saying about the finances, his investment. You know, we all make investments, some work, some don't. I don't get, and I'm serious about this, the comments about that all of a sudden it went bad. These were not renters who rented for 9 years. We had renters every year, different groups of renters coming in.
Yes,
I'm a little surprised that you would say you didn't notice it just starting to fall apart after we had a conversation originally about the dog that you said would not be allowed on the property was tied up in the backyard, and that's what started how you couldn't do anything in the backyard anymore around the 2 doors back there. Every year people moved in, they moved out. For you to say that you were so surprised to see the mess that happened is a little surprising to me. If you were really watching your investment and concerned about your investment and concerned about what was happening with the neighbors. And so I have a real concern about the idea of turning this into a duplex and renting it to students, intentionally trying to sell it to someone who will make money renting it to students in an R1 zone, in a community where we're trying to develop homes, keep homes here and not turn them all into student apartments. And we can look down West Main Street right now and you can see that they've all been single family homes when I moved in, and now they're all turning over to apartments. So where's the integrity of keeping the Canton Village and the homes as designed? That's my comment.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Conrad, I would like to comment on that.
Mr. Leindecker, please make sure your comments are not getting into a neighborhood conversation, but
No.
Okay.
I'm just going to try to clarify his comments on that.
Okay.
I said in my previous comments was that in the last year of the renting, that things went west on the inside of the property.
Now, let's just clarify this for a second, Mr. Leindecker. Are your rentals normally like a June 1st to June 1st rental? Are you a September 1st?
I know my leases run from May 31st to June 1st. I mean,
Yeah.
June 1st to
Yeah.
May 31st.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. A yearly rental.
Yep.
I take a security deposit, and they give me just 1 month security deposit, and they sign over the utilities other than the water and the sewer, which I can't do.
Right.
And I require a renter's insurance policy.
So in 2018, this group, if you said it took 5 to 6 months to get this group out,
yes,
they started in June, and almost right away by the end of the summer, you were already starting to look to get them out.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was saying.
Okay.
Is that I noticed that there was garbage on the outside of the house. There was windows being broke, and and according to New York state law, I can't just show up at the house. I have to give these people 24 hours notice before I can show up to the property and say something to them. And then when I do get there, there's minimal that I can do, because it's, what do they call it? The legal term, it's something to do with the fact that unless they're basically burning the house down, there's really nothing that I can do.
Right. That's pretty typical landlord type stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Exactly.
All right. So
then within August, September. Yes, sir.
Go on. You're fine.
Like I said, within August, September, I took actions to try to get the tenants that were there out.
Okay.
So that, like I said, that took me that amount of time for me to actually physically pay people to the house, and so
great. Okay, gives me an idea. Awesome. Any other public comments from anyone else in terms of the public? Mr. Pinchon, can I come back to you for a second?
Sure.
Can you go ahead and talk to me a little bit about the neighborhood? I've driven through it a bunch of times, and I've walked it to take a look, but I'm not living there. Can you go ahead and talk to me about the character of the houses around you, down towards the river, away from the river, in terms of like what you're seeing right now, in terms of how you describe the character of this neighborhood?
So the houses from my house toward the river,
Mhm.
so away from the property we're discussing, had been single-family homes. The last one was rented. It was rented out to families. It wasn't lived in by the owner. That's going back to 1992 when I first came here.
Right.
We actually rented that house for 8 months.
Yeah.
And the residents have well, moved out, sold it. One of them, Alan
Hudson.
Hudson, thank you. He sold it, and then people started living in it, and then it became a rental at some point. Then Mr. Miller passed away, and then that house turned over into rentals. And I think it's been the same person or entity who's been buying them on Main Street and then around Governor Street, and turning them into and renting them.
Okay.
And so what's happened when they've done that, they hadn't been students, but now they're students in the houses on our street, and they've just turned into, they start to fall apart, and then people have tried to sell them and they can't. I assume, I'm gonna guess here.
That sounds familiar.
Of the houses. So the neighborhood, from that standpoint, it's just changing. It's not a family neighborhood anymore.
Yep. Okay. All right. Awesome. Thanks. Hey, Debbie, real fast, what's the big parcel sitting behind this property and behind the Pinchons? It's like a giant field. Do you know?
Oh, that is owned by, it used to be the Davis property, but now it's owned by the Curtises.
Oh, it's a Curtis. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
it's a greenhouse that's set kind of off the street, and they own that huge, yes.
Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. I was wondering what that was. Awesome. Okay. Any other questions or any other public comments about this application? Now, if we don't have any other questions or anything else in the public hearing, we'll switch to our actual board meeting where we'll discuss the application and we'll have further questions for the applicant from there. Any other things in the public hearing? Okay, let's go ahead and close out the public hearing. And let's move forward into the zoning board meeting. The zoning board meeting is where we actually go through the application itself, and the board members will discuss and talk about things and ask questions of the applicant as we have them. It's basically it's a meeting, so we'll go from there. I'd like to remind people that basically the key thing is, first off, is everyone all set? Good to get started on this stuff? Yeah, Mike and Sally, you guys good? I'm gonna assume since you're muted, you're good. Shout out if you're not. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this, what we got to go with here. Basically, this is an application for a use variance, okay? Now, use variance, we have 4 codes, 4 tests that we need to go through to make sure that we can pass these, see if they can pass them, okay? Use variance has, Sally, you good?
Yes, I'm good.
All right,
I
awesome.
can hear you.
Perfect. There's the 4 tests on a use variance, and these are highlighted in Mr. Leindacker's application, and we'll go through each one and talk about them. First, I want to go ahead and name them out clearly so that everyone knows what we're going to be talking about. So the use variance, if any of these are not proven true, then basically we have to deny the application. All right, so first one, that the property is incapable of earning a reasonable return on initial investment if used for any of the allowable uses in the district, okay? So basically, can they return on their original investment if it's used as to match the R1 code, okay? The second test we should look at, that the property is being affected by unique or at least highly uncommon circumstances. Are these unique or uncommon circumstances that are creating this hardship, okay? The third one we're going to look at is the variance, if it's granted, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. That's where we look at the neighborhood a little more and think about what's going on there. And the fourth one is whether the hardship is self-created. And that's kind of, a lot of times we encounter that one is, can we prove that it's not self-created, basically created by someone else, not the Leindacker's fault. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the application itself and just take it point by point. All right. The question is, can the applicant cannot realize a reasonable return as shown by by financial evidence, basically. So can they get a return on the investment if it's used as an R1? What do you guys see on this? You guys can unmute and speak as you wish, my board members. Cool. All right.
So,
Yeah.
Caitlin, this
Yeah.
is Caitlin Gollinger speaking. I guess just from what I'm hearing so far, it seems like it would be very difficult to get an adequate return that was not a duplex.
Sounds like to me that the applicant mentioned that they're renting at $1,100 a month on the big place and $650 a month on the smaller place. And so even if you just rent the bigger place, right, and basically you can't do a duplex, it's a loss of the $650 per month on the smaller units. So, you know, it's a $7,200 a year, whatever it is, $7,800 a year. Okay. All right. Anything else about the financial side of it?
Well, the rents in Canton wouldn't justify anything more. I mean, if it remains a single family, that particular property, and it's split up, it'd be very awkward, number one. And number two, the rents, you know, it's what, $1,100 and $650. There's no way, you know, somebody's going to pay $1,750 to, no.
No, not for the two spaces. They'd be renting one side basically.
Correct.
In the worst case scenario, you rent one side out at $1,100, and that's best you can do. And then you're just eating the dead half of the building.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. What about the hardship? This property is unique or uncommon. I mean, is this a unique or uncommon circumstance in this situation? Like we have a duplex and an R1?
What about the one, didn't we come across this like a year or so ago with Elia Filippi at 35? It was the Bramhall property.
35 West Main?
Yeah. It's two down from the entrance of AAA. It's the beige, it's a single family house, and they converted the garage into an apartment.
Right, they did the accessory building or whatever they did.
Yeah, and I thought that it had come across that it was, you know, the year the grandfather had dropped off the accessory where the garage was, but they're currently using that.
Oh yeah, it's totally an accessory building.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I think that was one of the years that I was traveling, so I wasn't on the board.
Ew.
Yeah, I know, look at me, right? So I'm going to defer to your memory on this one. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Does anyone else remember that parcel? No. I guess the thing for me too is like, I know of a lot of buildings that are non-conforming uses in the village, but not a lot that are built to be duplexes that have the double entrances with the two driveways. That's I mean, what can any of you guys, I mean, Mike, can you think of anything in your neighborhood that's I mean, the R1s, I struggle with thinking of a true duplex designed space in the village. I mean, this is one of the unusual ones, I think. Governor Orr Street maybe, but can you guys come up with any, like, think of anything around that's I mean, I know of non-conforming usage. I know of like buildings in like apartments in buildings, but not, okay. So I think part of the hardship here that we're looking at it is that, I mean, the parcel has the 2 driveways on it, and it is basically built out for a common wall structure, which is not allowed use here. Okay. What about number 3? Do you guys think it'll change the essential character of the neighborhood?
Well, personally, you know, my feelings are, you know, it's, you know, been a duplex. And, you know, with the tenants that have been in there, did it change? And I believe the answer to that is yes.
So basically, the issue is more the tenants than the building itself.
You know, personally, yes, yeah.
I think that's, for any of us that live in neighborhoods with yearly leases.
Mhm.
Yes, some years are good and some years are very, very busy at 2 a.m.
Mhm.
So I think most of us in the village have been there. Okay. What about the hardship being self-created?
Okay. You know, he bought it. It was a duplex. He has used it as a duplex. And, you know, is it one of those unfortunate circumstances? Did he not know that if it was vacant for a year that he would lose, you know, the ability, the grandfather, you know, to use it as a duplex? You know, I can tell you that that's, you know, one of the problems that were on 35, you know, the lack of the knowledge, the, you know, the zoning, that sort of thing, but.
Right, but yeah, I mean, but as the applicant said, like before I let you in, he mentioned that basically, you know, not knowing the rule doesn't mean you don't follow the rule. But yeah.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. No, I just, yeah.
Now, one thing that's interesting in our zoning code on discontinuance, basically on the language in our zoning law, basically it says whenever a non-conforming use has been discontinued for a period of 1 year, any future use shall be in conformity with the provisions of this chapter, which is like, you know, it goes back to R1. But the next sentence says a reasonable interim, however, between tenants or occupants shall not be construed to mean discontinuance. And so a question might be, would this be considered a reasonable interim? Or are we looking at basically it was a self-created interim by the motivation or the wherewithal to continue the process to move things forward?
Okay. And I missed, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Has it been since it was?
It was basically they had renters. It sounds like they had renters move in June of 18. He started the process to try to remove them in late summer of 18. He's able to buy them out late December or early January of 18 or early January of 19. The dates that I'm remembering off of my notes here, it sounds like then started the renovation process or went to have you look at it. Actually, I believe you went into it in June, several months later of 19, and it was in such state that maybe it wasn't June of 19.
No, it was this year.
Oh, it was this year?
It was this year.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was early in the spring.
Okay.
Sorry for entering, but it was
you're
early in
fine.
the spring.
No, you're gonna know the dates better than I am.
Yes.
Right.
So the renters were out in late 18, and then early this year in 20 tried
Well,
to.
actually, Conrad, it was more around the time of the time we got in there was early February, and when the whole COVID thing kicked in the March time period, I had Mike lined up to start working on it, and he just could not. Nothing could be done in that period for I mean, I gave him a deposit to start, but he just didn't feel comfortable doing work on the property. So,
but we're still looking at that gap from.
Yes. Continue.
I mean, it's still a year gap of like February 19 to February of 2020.
Understand. Yes.
Okay, and you know during that time frame, it's just sitting vacant with damage. I mean,
yes,
that's kind of where we were. Okay, all right. And so I mean the COVID delay. I mean we're very aware of the COVID delay, and that's So Caitlin, yeah.
And also, I guess, was it my understanding or am I incorrect that the time period from when it was sitting vacant was maybe to raise funds.
Yes, yes, dear,
Or-
to try to get not to raise funds, but to get to try financing to get things to put back together. I mean, when my wife and I first bought the property, we put a lot of our savings, quite a bit of our savings in there. And when we got in there, it was just way more than what we could do. So we had to try to go through the process of applying for a small business loan. On one hand, we tried, and that didn't go through. So then we ended up trying to do a home equity line of credit, and that was just turned into a major mess, because then they'd have to come and do an assessment of the property. And with the property in the condition that it was, there was no way that we could do any kind of home equity thing on it. So we ended up borrowing money basically from family to fix the property. So it was trying to line up the finances to do this. I mean, if I had perfect credit with everybody, then yeah, but it's when you've got to try to do a small business loan or a home equity line of credit. I mean, we had equity in the house, but we had equity in the house that would appraise for what it was worth. Like I said, it's just been a difficult period for us. I mean, we were lucky to borrow from a relative to pay to do this. I mean, I hate asking for money out of places I don't like to do it, but it is what it is. I mean, sometimes you have to make tough decisions. Sometimes you just gotta bite your pride and ask for help. And that was more of my failure, a feeling of my failure of this whole process. And I mean, it is what it is. And I'll just leave it at that, dear. I'm sorry.
Are you at the state now where you're renting back out again right now? Or have you fixed up to the point where you're trying to list it? Is that, I think you
That's what we're doing right now. We're just trying to basically lick our wounds and move on.
Okay.
All
right.
It's at that point, but it's just, I'll leave it at that, sir. No problem.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right. What are we thinking? Any questions about these things? The cool thing about use variance is about the ZBA is that we get all the sticky situations where you're never quite sure what you're going to do, and everyone's right at the edge of all the things. You know, you get the duplex that looks like a duplex, smells like a duplex, built like a duplex, sitting in the middle of an R1 zone. It is surrounded on all sides by single-use R1 buildings, except for a really big farm right behind it.
Yes.
Which is an R1. But this is what the ZBA does. This is our bread and butter in terms of we get to make decisions on these things. Luckily, the New York State does provide us with the guidelines. If we feel that if we feel these 4 tests can be met or cannot be met, then we have to turn this down. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, board members, what do you guys feel like? Do you want to go through each one and vote on each one? Do you want to think about it and come back? Do you want to discuss these things anymore?
Conrad, I just feel because of my involvement, I should recuse myself.
Because of your situation as looking at the parcel in this year and giving advice on not unsaleable property. Okay.
I mean, that's completely up to the board and to Mr. Leindecker, but
well, thanks for letting me know. Let's go ahead. Let's make sure make through the discussion, because I think your insights in terms of the neighborhood and things like that are important to us. But
okay.
when we get to a voting stage, let's see where things stand. Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. All right, Andy, Mike, and Sally, I'm gonna ask you guys for some thoughts here. Yeah, nothing in voting wise, but like, what are your feelings and thoughts and questions about some of these things? Sally?
Conrad, this is Sally. Yes, due to my understanding is due to the difficulty of his financing and the delay in the COVID, is that how he lost the grandfather and renting these properties?
It sounds like actually the discontinuance was before he started hiring the contractor. The contractors lined up in February, almost a full year after the parcel was empty. So it was the finances that was the true delay, it sounds like. So it was the raising the funds to fix it that created it. So I think that in theory, he would have started with his contractor in February, but this contractor didn't start until later of 2020. So it was sitting vacant for a year as they determined the finances to try to fix it up.
Okay.
Okay. Mike, what about you? Anything?
Conrad,
Yeah,
you can hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay. I see both sides. I live in an area where the landscape has changed, just like Tom's.
Mhm.
Probably more than Tom says. And I live in close proximity. I
Yeah.
live here, so it's not a rental of a property, and I own properties.
Right.
So I'm trying to, I mean, like I said, it looks like a duplex. The village has it as, two different separate properties. So, it's hard for me to think what it would be, but I definitely think we need Debbie to stay on to help us with it.
Okay. Cool.
I agree. Debbie should remain with us as well.
Lucky you. All right, Andy, what do you think? Any thoughts?
I would just say, like Mike, I'm sensitive to Tom and Carol's feelings. I live in a neighborhood that has a number of, year-to-year rentals. In fact, the property directly across the street from me is owned by the Linedeckers. And so I'm clearly sensitive to the nature of the concerns of the neighborhood there.
Okay. All right. And both Caitlin and Deb, you guys have spoken up already, so let me know if you want to speak up some more.
Well, it's just very difficult because, living up in that area and having my office here and noticing the changes, like the big house on the corner that Mike Howard owns, it is changing, and I really know where Tom and Carol are coming from, because for my office, I have a problem, with them using my parking on the weekends, when they have a party, that sort of thing. So, I really know where they're coming from.
Right.
And the thing about it is, and I'm not saying, if it weren't for the students, where would our community be? But, having to live next door, to something like that. I just wish, that we could just wave a magic wand and just have the ideal tenants. Or, if there was some way, that you could put a stipulation, that, you couldn't rent to students but even families, they're not all ideal. So, it's difficult. It really is.
Yeah.
It's a 2-unit. I think, that's its best use. And in regards to, the Linedeckers investment, it's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. Makes sense. Okay. All right. Where do we stand, board? Do you want to go ahead and go through these and vote on each of these guys now? Or do you guys want to go ahead and think about it more and come back at a future date? We have 60 days to make any of these decisions. Now that we've had the public hearing, we can bring it back together again, or we can go ahead and discuss and vote now. if you want to discuss and vote now, give me a quick wave of your hand. If you don't, if you want to wait, just let me know some way. What do you guys think?
Wait.
Do you want to think? Do you want to go through now? We don't know.
Well, personally, what's going to change in 60 days?
Just forget the case. No, no, it will continue to percolate through.
I mean, I'm open to either. It's
okay. All right,
Conrad,
yeah, Mike.
before I'm all for voting tonight too. But
Okay.
I just wanted to mention one thing in our area of the housing, there's 3 student houses that I could throw a rock from and break a window in either one of them from my place here and every one of them has more than 3 people, which is what the law says. If you're not the owner of the property living there, you can't have over 3 people. And I can guarantee you, I can walk over there and five or 6 and everything. And we've complained and they're still there.
Yep. And
You
there's
know,
not a lot.
I mean, that's, if we're talking about laws, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Now, there's not a lot of teeth behind our enforcement of the R1 codes. Basically we have to prove that there's more than 3 people renting there.
I talked to Jeff about that and
Yeah, I'm
and
sure.
he explained it to me. It's a very tough thing.
Yeah. So I'm sure that everyone in this room is aware of how to deal with this and the games we deal with now in terms of, and unfortunately it's not every rental. I mean, there's a lot of really good rentals out there that are, a lot of fabulous students, a lot of fabulous people renting a lot of great places in the village. Unfortunately, sometimes there's the few. Yeah.
and there's also the circumstance where, the landlords are here, in the area and they keep an eye, and when they get a complaint, they can go down versus, absentee landlords that.
It's hard. Yeah. Caitlin?
Yeah, I just wanted to say before we vote, I think that I'm probably one of the biggest people to speak out against certain year-long rentals, as I've had the pleasantry of residing next to a hockey house for a few years while I had young children.
Sweet.
And Halloween pumpkins getting stolen and public urination in the middle of the afternoon when you have a 4-year-old watching and things like that. I've definitely been outspoken about that, but I can definitely see Mr. Leindecker's issue here, and just the fact that it's a duplex doesn't necessarily mean the next person that owns it or the next renters will necessarily be students. I think there are some young professionals, and I work in the legal field, and I think there are some young lawyers that are coming to our area, and there are definitely some potential for young professional renters. So I don't think we need to just assume that the next renters are definitely going to be students.
One thing about the students is you can make more money renting to students than you can to a family. I mean, once he gets $1,150 for his one apartment, obviously you could make a mortgage payment for that. Not everybody, but some people.
Yeah. True. Okay. All right, so I'm going to need to, I think that it sounds like people are arcing towards having a vote. I will need at least 4 of you guys to vote on each one. I'll be the 5th deciding vote if it comes down to anything that's an issue. Debbie asked to recuse herself. Andy has indicated to me at a previous time that he would prefer to be a spectator in this one. So we're going to flip a coin. I don't know. So I think that Mr. Leindecker, are you, Debbie, I'd like to ask you to go ahead and vote with your experience with the stuff. If Mr. Leindecker's understanding of your, I mean, you have been the parcel. I don't want to impact your business at all. Are you okay with that, Debbie, or would you like?
Going first?
No, not going first, just in terms of voting, in terms of being on the.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, I
Okay.
just, a few more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay.
All right, cool.
Conrad,
Yeah.
I apologize. Before you start, Mr. Pinchon had a question. Is he allowed to interject at all, or is that?
Oh, during the meeting, I can recognize him. Yes, Mr. Pinchon, what was your question?
Thank you. I guess I wanted to be clear on something here. The reason why I want it to be R1 and single family is to keep building the neighborhood that way. I understand you could have renters there that are great renters. And we're not against that. And I'm not against the Leindeckers losing all their money. Though it sounds like they have another apartment in Canton too. So maybe they're not novices to this rental world that I thought they might have been. But I did have a question about your point on making the money back. I don't know which point it was about number 2, maybe.
Oh, on the what was
Not allowed to, yeah.
Okay, so
no, number 1, can they return on their initial investment?
yeah,
So their initial investment was whatever.
right,
Now they've had to make another investment.
right.
So there is the question of why you have to keep, because they had to keep piling money in. Now you have to go along with it and say, well, we got to help them get their money back. But that's just minor. Can't they sell, if they sold it, not as an investment, but they sold it to a family? So I guess I would ask Debbie, as a real estate agent, I mean, is the house, could they sell that house and recoup their money just because they sold it for X amount of dollars? They don't have to worry about investments and whether people are going to get rental income for the next 20 years.
But whether or not they can recoup their money, I can't answer that. I know what they paid for the property. I don't know what they've put into it. The thing about it is, in regards to selling it, yeah, absolutely. But, the way it's set up, it's, you could use it as a single family residence, like, you could purchase it, live in one side, rent the other side out. If it remains R1, that's not going to be allowed, is my understanding. So for somebody to purchase that, as a single family, of course, I don't know what the asking price would be, but somebody's going to have to, because there's 2 kitchens, they're going to have to do renovations on top of their initial purchase, to convert it back to a single family.
So then you have the issue that if it goes R1 and they have to try to sell it, they can't find anybody who wants to buy it. And
I'm not saying that they couldn't find anyone to buy it. It's going to make it a little more difficult.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm agreeing. I'm agreeing on
Yeah.
that. It's not necessarily going to turn our situation around because it goes R1. It could exasperate the situation.
Right, it could sit.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not a magic bullet one way or the other. Right now, the thing is that right now, regardless of what we decide, it is zoned R1. Like they're asked to change it to a usage to allow a duplex in this R1 zone. It's still an R1. It will be an R1. It will just have a non-conforming use of a duplex. So it doesn't change. Like right now, it's R1. Right now, they can't rent it to use it as a duplex. It's a physical structure that's as a duplex, but they cannot use it as a duplex right now because it lapsed on the non-conforming use. And so, like we're not, and that's kind of what we're discussing today. And like, so we need to see if we will pass these 4 tests to allow the usage.
Okay, question.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say we say, okay, we're granting him, permission to use it as a duplex.
Right.
Somebody purchases it.
Mhm.
What happens if the new owner wants to sell? Is that going to follow ownership?
It stays on
It
the
will.
parcel.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, so the usage stays with the parcel.
Okay.
So it's kind of like if they had still been renting it and maintained renting it, the non-conforming usage would stay.
okay.
If we allow the usage to go in, if we say, and the thing is that as a board, we can also write the usage that's very clear about not expanding footprints or not like, you know, there's things we can do as a board that make it clear about the non-conforming usage. You know, it's clearly as a duplex, but not as a multifamily in terms of like not converting to 3 families or anything like that. You know, because that's, you know, if you slap another door in there and then all of a sudden you have 3 2-bedrooms. I have no idea about the layout, but like that's, you know, there's things that can be done.
Mhm.
That we need to think about if we go through these 4 tests and they pass the 4 tests. The thing is, it's really the benchmark on use variance is does it match these 4 tests created by New York State? This is not us, this is New York State in terms of what they want, in terms of how ZBAs work. So, Tom, does that take care of your questions? Do you have anything else that you wanted to?
I think so. I guess I have one just technical question. If it is R1 and not considered a duplex anymore, so you're saying someone couldn't buy it and rent out a room to someone else?
So rent out 1 room?
Yeah, I mean,
So
could I rent out a room in my house right now if somebody needed a room to?
I would have to defer to Jeff on that in terms of there's certain things about accessory apartments. And in the code right now, I'm not sure if you're doing 1 room, then you might get into the Airbnb laws. Are you renting out leasing? But these are all that I would wait for an appeal to the Zoning Board of Appeals on that one, the ZBA, to ask about the edge scenarios, and otherwise leave up to Jeff to make those decisions.
I was trying to see whether it could be positioned in a way that you've got someone, as we were talking about, somebody who wants to get into the market and get a little extra income by renting out part of the house. And they're controlling who the renters are. They're living there, so that controls that's a lot of positives to that, as opposed to being an absentee.
Right. Right. I mean, if you have
Thank you very much.
Yep. No problem. Okay. Awesome. Anything else? Okay. All right. So let's look at the first question. You know, is the property incapable of earning a reasonable return on investment if used for any of the allowed uses in the district? So basically, can they get the money back if they use it as an R1? So if we say, is it incapable? So if we say yes, that's incapable, okay? But if it's no, then we feel like it's a reason an R1 works for them, okay? So yes, a yes statement says that they're incapable of getting it. A no statement says, you know, they can totally make it work with an R1, okay? All righty. So does anyone want to volunteer to take a stab on a yes or no on that first question?
I would say they're not capable.
Okay. Mike?
I think they're not capable neither, but
All right.
is it up to us to decide if
Yeah.
how much money they're gonna make? I mean, that's,
It-
you know what I mean, kind of.
Mike, this is why we get paid the big bucks. We get to make decisions based on the application.
Okay, I say no.
All right. Sally?
I say no as well.
Okay. Caitlin?
I say they're incapable.
Okay. Thanks for
If
being
I
clear
think
on
too
that.
hard, I get confused.
No, that's fair. I liked how you said that basically you're going to state what you're voting for as opposed to be like a yes, no. I like that. All right. Awesome. All right. The second test. This property is being affected. Is it being affected by unique or highly uncommon circumstance? So the reason why this, like basically, is it coming before us because it's some sort of unique or highly uncommon circumstance? Sally, what do you think? So basically, you can say, at this point, I'd say basically, are you gonna say, is it being affected? So a yes vote, I'm gonna flip up the yes and no's on you too. So a yes vote means that it's a unique circumstance. And a no vote says, no, it's not unique. Sally, what do you think?
Okay, I say no, that it's not unique.
Okay. Mike, what do you think?
I mean, it is a circumstance kind of created by himself by overlapping. I'm torn. I'd say no, it's not unique.
Okay. Caitlin?
I say yes, it is unique.
Awesome. All right. And Debbie?
I think I have to say no to that.
Okay. All right. Let's go through the other tests. Number 3, that the variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. So let me know if you think it will alter or will not alter. Let's hear who has not had the opportunity to go first. Mike.
I've lived here 35 years. I don't think it would alter the neighborhood. I think it's, you know, it's sat there, you know, and, you know, you can't regulate who, I mean, we can't say who we can put in there. So
Right.
As far as a duplex like I said before, the addresses has 2 addresses. So I think it's, I don't know how I should vote, but I agree that it's not, that it is not going to affect the neighborhood.
Right. Okay. So not alter. Great. Caitlin, what do you think? Not alter, alter neighborhood.
I say no, it won't alter.
Okay. Debbie?
No.
Yeah. And Sally?
I also agree that it won't alter. No.
Okay. Awesome. All right. The hardship being self-created. Okay. So the question is, this lack of conformance, was this self-created by the applicant? Okay. All righty. Debbie, I'm gonna ask you first this time.
Was it self-created by the applicant?
It's always a tough one, right?
You know, it is. You know, it really is, because, you know, was he aware of the zoning, you know, when he purchased it, that it was an R1, you know? Was he aware, you know, that if it was left vacant for a year? You know, I you know, truly believe, you know, that he did not know that, as, you know, there's only been a couple others, you know, in my past that they didn't realize that. So
Right.
I don't.
Okay. Not self-created. All right. Sally, what do you think? Self-created or not self-created? You muted yourself. I think you're unmuted, then you muted. Now you're back.
No, I don't think it was self-created at all.
Okay. And Caitlin? You.
I thought I clicked it.
I know, I think you went on to mute.
I'm a young person. I should be better at this.
Right.
I say no, it was not self-created.
And Mike?
I say it was not self-created.
Okay.
I've owned property, and I didn't even know this law till I read it on, you know, came up on, so.
When I told you about it, huh?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, look at that. There we are. Okay. All right. Now, in order to grant a use variance, basically all 4 of these conditions need to pass. We need to agree with them. Okay. The first one, incapable of earning. We agreed with that. Okay. The third one, not alter the neighborhood. We agreed with that. The fourth one, not self-created hardship. We agreed with that. The second one, the property is being affected by unique or at least highly uncommon circumstances. And that was the one where we said we do not agree with that. And are we all okay with that? That would
Yes.
okay. All right. That would mean that we are going to deny this use variance for this parcel. And it will stay as a duplex in an R2 or an R1. Sorry.
R1?
R1. The duplex in the R1. And we go from there. Okay.
Conrad, can I ask you for a clarification on the second one that was not, that you didn't agree on, please?
Yes. The question was basically the clarification on the second one. The question itself was basically the property being affected by unique or at least highly uncommon circumstances. Okay. The question on the application you filled out, it said the alleged hardship relating to the property is unique. The hardship may not apply to a substantial portion of the zoning district or neighborhood. Okay. So what you said on your application was the highest and best use is a duplex. Due to the change in zoning after construction, it was grandfathered, but property is still laid out as a duplex.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
So that was what your application said. Do we feel like this is being the question was on the usage, do we feel like it's being affected by something unique? Is there a unique environment that's impacting the usage of this? Is this on use variances, sometimes there's something going on with the parcel itself that creates a thought pattern or a usage in that area that requires some sort of modification to the zone. And the board feels that basically it's not a unique parcel. It's not unique in terms of its surrounding area. The circumstances that have it, I mean, it basically has the duplex, but that's it.
It's in like Conrad and my understanding is that if it looks like a duplex, then what you're saying here, then it should be duplex. And on this thing to talk, I mean, if anybody that drives by the house will understand this is a duplex. It's designed, it's set up, it has two separate driveways, two separate porches. Even if you didn't look at the inside of the house, you would know from the outside that the house is a duplex. So if I'm understanding you right, is that you said if it looks like a duplex, then it is a duplex.
I'm saying if it looks like a duplex, that's
I don't know.
One of our considerations, Mr. Linebacker, is what the usage is here. The issue is we hit it. It's sitting in an
Yes,
R1.
that's what we're talking about, was the second part of this.
And we're talking about the uniqueness of the property. Okay, is the property itself unique in some way?
Yes, sir.
The property is not unique. The fact that it has a building on it is not unique.
No, but the layout of the house that's the unique part of it, is that there are two complete separate driveways, two complete separate entrances, two complete separate electric things to it. So it's unique to the neighborhood because it is set up completely as physically set up as a duplex. So if you're considering the house next door, Mr. Pinchon's house, compared to the 23,
I'm sorry, Mr. Linebacker. I'm not
yes,
doing
I'm doing
it's the uniqueness of the property parcels in the neighborhood. The board feels, based on the voting records of the board, we feel that basically it's not a unique, it's not an uncommon circumstance to have this sort of environment going on, based on our conversations. So
if this is the way it is, I would like to adjourn for a further time to bring up more information in concern to this, your number 2 standard.
Mr. Linebacker, I'm sure that you can reapply. Basically, if we've already, I mean, I don't know.
No, I'm just, Conrad, I'm not trying to waste anybody's time. It's just, I would like to have time to bring up more information to, for you to consider the uniqueness of this property, whether it's unique to the neighborhood or not. We have passed 3 of the 4 standards for a variance. It's just, at this point, I think that I need to have more time to bring more information to the board, considering this second part that the board feels that we haven't passed. I mean, we're
You know what,
talking
Mr.
about
Mr. Linebacker,
one
you know,
part of this application that would need more information or more research on. I'd have to see if I can bring supporting things to the board to support this. I just don't want to have to go through the whole process over again and bring up information when I've already passed 3 of the 4 things
but okay.
for the zoning variant.
Well, it's not like an iterative process. It's not, you know, the zoning board's not gonna sit here and be like, all right, well, you passed this hurdle, you get to pass this, you get to go through this one now. This is not the way the zoning board's gonna work on this sort of thing. I would need to check with my people to see what is the legal approach on this, to be honest with you. The thing is, the
Okay,
zoning
sir.
board.
Like I said, I'm not trying to argue. I'm just trying to see if I could have some more time to.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying in terms of
second part that
what you're trying to look at. I hear what you're trying to I mean, obviously you'd like to get it passed in terms of the usage. I understand that, and you'd love to be able to argue that the case that it could pass.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So.
I just have to bring in some other people that have maybe an attorney in this to see if he can find something that would go for this. I mean, I'm just a simple guy, just trying to keep things simple. So if need be, if I got to go through the whole process again, I'll do it again. But it's just, I'd rather keep things simple with the board and keep on trying to work with you guys.
Well, let me figure out what the next step is on this, okay? And figure out where we can go from there, okay?
Okay, sir.
All right. All right, so back to the board here. Basically, we had the 4 tests. One of them's not there. I can write up a decision. I will check to see if we I will talk to people about Mr. Lindacker's desires, and we will see what needs to be done from there, if anything. I'm not sure about the serial application on a use variance on a single parcel. I do not know how that works, what the process would be in that situation. So we may look at a delay if that makes the most sense, and not file our responses for a bit, or we may file them. We will make that decision based on consulting those who know more about this sort of process than I do. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So board members, we're okay with where things stand in terms of what the current thing is. I have 60 days for a final decision on anything, but we've gone through these tests. We've discussed these tests, and we can go from there. Are there any final comments or questions that I have from any of the board members?
No, I just think, that it's in our best interest, if we do ask the question, so that not only, in all fairness, to Mr. Linedecker, so that, we have the information for ourselves.
Right. So we
Yeah, I think, Conrad, if maybe you had a definition of what they consider uniqueness. I think
Yeah.
that's a pretty broad word.
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it hasn't come up to us again, so one could say that was unique, but I don't know. Based on what we discussed about it, my vote, I think it's true, but I'm not 100% sure on the legal, what uniqueness would be considered, you know what I mean?
And that is the rub of it. I mean, that's kind of, we get into these games, like what does it mean for a parcel to be considered unique or uncommon for this sort of like, you know.
I guess I was thinking the situation is maybe unique, a little and uncommon, but I don't know if the parcel part of it would be, I guess. So, yeah, I'd like get some definition on that.
Okay, so I can look into number 2 then. We'll table our decision. And we'll come
Thank
back.
you, sir.
And we will come back together as a board to discuss when I get more clarification on number 2. And we will
Yes,
go
sir.
from there.
Thank you very much.
So any other questions? It sounds like most of us would be more comfortable with that approach in terms of just taking number 2 a little further and getting a little more clarification around how we analyze that question. And maybe I'll get some more information, some of the other questions to make sure that we've addressed them correctly in terms of our thought process. And we'll just come back together again and try to get it taken care of in the next couple of weeks. Okay.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you guys for your
Thank-
time. I appreciate you
Thank you.
inviting me into the meeting.
All right. So,
Bye-bye.
all right, we good?
Thank you, sir.
All right, let's close it out. Meeting done. You guys will hear from me.
Have a good night, everybody.
All right.
Bye.
You too.
Jenny, you want to stay on? Jeff, you good?
Good.
You good? Sweet. Okay.
I'll talk to you, Conrad.
All righty. Sounds glorious.
Have a good night.
You too, dude. Later.
Thanks, Jeff.
Bye, Jenny.
Bye, Jeff.
I'm just putting them in the waiting room. I'm like,
I
all right, get out of
know.
here.
I know, right?
I'm like, I can't wait for you to leave the meeting. Do you need anything else from me?
I don't think so. I'm just double checking my information. I'll go back through because that was kind of a complex meeting. And
Yeah.
I'll re-listen to the recording to make sure that everything is very clear.
Yeah.
So that, and then I got all the basics, and like I said, I have the recording. So I think we're good. I'll try to get this one out quickly because I know we're looking at it again.
Yeah.
So, or at least getting more information on it. So I'll get it out to you as quick as I can,
Yeah.
probably
Okay.
in the next few days.
That's fine. That'll work just fine. I'm basically, I have some work to do in terms of tracking down like
Right.
test scenarios for the second test here, to give us some guidance on it. So,
Right. All right.
all right, cool.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Conrad.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.